for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson, and I'm your co-host.
My name is Jack Prince, your fellow co-host.
Well, Jack, how are you today?
I'm okay, Darren.
All right. Well, we have a reason that you... go ahead.
Well, I'm like many Americans. The ground beneath our very feet is not quite as solid as it was an hour ago, so we're all on the same ride.
Yeah, that's pretty much the case here. You're kind of feeling a little under the weather. You've had a cough, and you didn't want to expose me to it in the event that it happens to be COVID-19. So we are doing the show this way, you joining me from your home in Grand Rapids via telephone. And I'm up in my undisclosed location somewhere in the country of Michigan. Oh gosh, Jack, we have to laugh about this because if we don't laugh, we're just gonna cry, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean it's the last chapter in the horror story in many ways.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have had suspicions of creeping fascism, and we've always talked about the possible doomsday apocalyptic acts of Mother Nature. Many people are saying, Mother Nature's just finally got tired of waiting on us to do something about this mess and has taken it into its own hands. And what we couldn't do, Mother Nature, what the MFers couldn't do, Mother Nature could. We got to ask ourselves on the show how this virus is going to affect us, the election, Trump, our families, because it's right here, right now.
It certainly is, and since we are broadcasting from the great state of Michigan, last night in a late-night press conference, which is really unusual for this state, Governor Gretchen Whitmer has closed all the public and private schools starting Monday. That would be March 16th. They're going to be closed for the next 3 weeks. This has never happened before.
No, it hasn't. Again, we're in uncharted waters. And I don't know, how do you feel about USA's ability to handle this virus? All we've seen so far is the door being closed after the horse is out.
Yeah.
Trump has been nothing but lackadaisical. I mean, let's think about some of his comments real briefly. I haven't gotten them written down, but I remember the one, there's 5 people that have this, and they're going to be healed by the morning. This miracle is just going to go away. Then there were the battery of lies about the tests. Mm-hmm. You can go and get them, that they're going to be free, just on and on. South Korea is testing 10,000 people a day.
Jeez.
We've done 10,000 in this disease entire duration of time. We've done what they're doing in one single day.
Mm-hmm.
And we are not just behind the 8 ball. We're just sobering up to its impact, indicated by Whitmer going on at 11 o'clock last night. And I have to ask you, what do you think was the motivation for a late-night press conference like that?
I'm beginning to think maybe the motivation for the late-night press conference was the news that they had just received that there were 10 more cases of coronavirus, bringing the total up to 12. I think they're just getting the results of the testing so damn late because Trump screwed it up.
Well, just right here in the state of Michigan, I don't know why you'd report the new virus people at, 10 o'clock? I mean, that prompted the visionaries down at Lansing to say, we got to stop this. Do you honestly think there were 10 Michiganders who thought there would be no more increase other than the 4 that were supposedly listed at 8 o'clock yesterday morning?
Mm-hmm.
Has there been a single state where this has appeared, that's been the pattern? You get 4, and then that's it, it disappears. How ludicrous for the health department, the Michigan Health Department, to have a press conference at 11 o'clock yesterday and say, well, since there's no outbreaks right here, locally, here in Kent County, then we're not going to close. So you're telling me your strategy is to wait until you get the outbreaks here, which I maintain is absolutely inevitable. At that time, you've got to be absolutely in the dark to think you're not going to have incidents of it here in this county. So you're going to wait until those manifest, and then you're going to close the schools. Whitmer or somebody down there had enough sense to realize that press conference was ludicrous, if not negligent. Why do you think in Whitmer's press conference near midnight, they really plugged the health department, saying, oh, and we want to thank you for all your hard work. What hard work? The hard work of having your head up your stethoscope? Are you kidding me? You're telling me that at 11 o'clock you make a statement and 8 hours later it has to be usurped by responsible leadership? They didn't dare wait until the morning.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't dare, in light of the fact Grand Valley was closed, Western was closed, Central was closed, Ohio State, the entire state is closed, Maryland, Kentucky. They knew doggone right how incompetent it would be. I called the director. I called 15 minutes before this show a woman named Joanne Langdon.
And she's with the Kent County Health Department in Michigan, which covers Grand Rapids.
She's the woman that spoke at the press conference yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I had talked with her earlier in the press conference, urging her to adopt not the speed of prevention and prophylactic that Trump was manifesting, but to be responsible and close the schools as, at that time, Ohio had.
Mm-hmm.
And her reaction was, well, we don't have any outbreaks, which you then heard in the press conference.
Mm-hmm.
I said, that's not responsible. That's short-sighted. That's indicative of us being behind the 8 ball, as we have from the inception of it here in this country.
Mm-hmm.
So she seemed to completely ignore that. I called her 15 minutes before you called me this morning, Darren. I said, well, in retrospect, you see how the department could have saved a lot of embarrassment and maintained some confidence in the eyes of Michiganders if your press conference didn't have to be reversed by the governor. I pointed out when I called her earlier yesterday, I said, the governor said no collections of people over 100 people. Mm-hmm. And any elementary school I've ever seen has 100 kids walking right down the hall at 8 o'clock on their way to class. So I called the same woman this morning, and I said, you could have spared the embarrassment for that department and maintained some confidence in the department's wisdom, that you had heeded the pleas to close the schools and not have your press conference keeping them open at 11. She very feebly said, duly noted.
Because that's all she could say?
That is all she could say. And the interview with the governor of Ohio yesterday, when he closed, and he's a Republican, pointed out for the whole state of Ohio the millions of people that have 1,000 test kits. We may be the most precarious nation in the world for this virus.
We're the dumbest, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you also...
I'm because we're working by phone here, I'm going to try and get an article. If you can carry the ball here for a minute, let me try and get to my notes here for a second, okay?
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. There have been a lot of closings. A lot of the sports organizations have shut down. Major League Baseball is delaying the start of opening season for another 2 weeks. The National Basketball Association has suspended the rest of their season. The National Hockey League has suspended the rest of their season. The AHL, which has a team in Grand Rapids, the Grand Rapids Griffins, they have suspended their season. Major League Soccer has suspended their season. The XFL, Vince McMahon's Football League, has suspended the rest of the season. We haven't heard anything from NASCAR yet. Now, that would be interesting, seeing race cars going around a track with no crowd in a racetrack that normally has attendance of 140, 150,000 people. To see that empty and a race going on, that would be precedent-setting at that point, my thoughts. But
that organization is not going to do anything that would make Trump look silly.
Yeah.
I had conservative friends calling me yesterday saying, did you see the NBC interview with Pence? They were rude. They kept demanding for numbers. They, all Pence did was try and cover for the orange buffoon. and there was no responsibility there either. His speech, Trump's speech, was absolutely riddled with mistakes, inaccuracies.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most glaring, I'm talking about the speech that he supposedly gave, the fireside chat speech to calm our worries by showing responsible leadership. There was none of it.
Yeah.
There was absolutely none of it. So big a gap in that he said, truck stopped from Europe. And then an hour later, we realized the stock markets were imploding. Had to assure everybody, this doesn't mean trade. This is just, and of course, it doesn't mean Americans. And it doesn't mean Scotland. It doesn't mean Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
A European can't fly to Toronto and spend another $150 to fly into Detroit. Here's the deal. That speech is indicative of a dilatory, unresponsible buffoon leading country, and NASCAR is not going to feed into that by suddenly closing its tracks.
Yeah. Let me. Now, here's one that affects me a little bit. WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment, was supposed to broadcast their SmackDown program live tonight from Little Caesars Arena in Detroit. They have canceled that taping and have moved it to the WWE Performance Center in Florida. No audience. So they are literally going to have empty arena matches at their Performance Center. Now, for wrestling fans, that's not unprecedented. The first empty arena match took place April 25th, 1981 in Memphis, Tennessee at the Mid-South Coliseum. Jerry the King Lawler versus former NWA World Heavyweight Champion Terry Funk, which was brutal. It was something else. So there is a precedent for it. But on this scale, think about it. WrestleMania is coming up in 3 weeks, Jack. It's supposed to be at the football stadium in Tampa, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play. They're expecting 80,000 people to show up for this big wrestling event. If they have to cancel it, McMahon's going to lose a lot of money.
Well, not just McMahon. The guys selling hot dogs, the parking attendants, on and on it goes.
Yes.
And that's a lot of people, and that's a lot of money. It's a drop in the bucket compared to the NBA season. Totally and completely canceled. The TV revenue, on and on it goes, across the board, NCAA. We've got two fatal possibilities. One is physical, one is economic. And the economic one is maybe more glaringly worrisome even than the physical.
Yeah.
You can't just cut out all sports revenue for 2 months. There was a guy interviewed on, I think it was MSNBC last night, say this could affect us for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
This could affect us for 2 years.
Wow.
And again, the question is, how is this going to affect the Democratic primary, Darren? I'm asking. And how is this going to affect Trump?
I don't know.
Interesting. Well, it's interesting that when you hear Trump speak one day and the next day you hear Bernie speak about the economic answers to this problem, you feel like you had a child on one day and an adult speaking on the same topic the next day.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bernie's calling for expansion of unemployment benefits to people who work part-time, work in a gig economy, are independent contractors. I mean, that's a big step right there. That's leadership there.
That's leadership. He even sounds like a leader.
Yep.
I thought Trump was manifesting the symptoms of the coronavirus while he was talking.
Yeah.
He couldn't take a deep breath.
Yeah, no kidding.
Forget that his eyes are dilated. I thought he was going to suffocate.
Yep. Hey, real
we
quick.
Can dream.
Yeah,
we can dream.
Yeah. I'm going to stop you real quick there because I want to make sure that our listeners have their little checklist ready to go. You need to have this in your car when you travel. Have you got your hand sanitizer? Have you got your wipes? Have you got your latex gloves so that you don't have to touch doors and gas pump handles when you put gas in your car? Have you got your mask so you don't touch your face? Because that's how the virus spreads. Those are things that we mentioned on our last show. Those came from an actual medical doctor who has studied the coronavirus since the 1970s. And yet this information isn't getting out in the media.
Yeah.
It's just unreal. Jack, but you know what? God's got a plan for this, Jack. You know that? I got to play you this clip. You have not heard this yet. This runs about 1:30 seconds, and then I'm going to have a couple of sound effects after this quote here.
Before you start that, when Trump was giving that speech, I said, if Trump jumps up and grabs his chest and falls over, I will be in church on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And Sharon laughed, but it's true. When you said God's got a plan, well, we're not doing this virus might do for us. Go ahead.
Yep. Here's the clip. This is Televangelist Kenneth Copeland. You really got to listen to this ridiculousness here.
Put your hand on that television set.
Yes, Lord.
Hallelujah.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Lord Jesus. He received your healing.
Yes.
Now. Say it, I take it.
I take it.
I have it.
I have it.
It's mine.
It's mine.
I thank you and praise you for it.
Yes, Lord.
And I forgive if I have aught against any.
I forgive.
And I praise you that I'm well and whole.
I praise you that I'm well and whole.
Yes. According to the Word of God.
According to the Word of God.
I'm healed.
Yes.
And I consider not my own body.
Yes. Consider not my own body.
I consider not symptoms in my body.
I consider not symptoms in my body.
But only that which God has promised.
Only that which God has.
Only that what the Word has said.
Only that what the Word.
And by His stripes I was healed. And by His stripes I am healed now. I'm not the sick trying to get healed. I'm the healed, and the devil's trying to give me the flu.
That's right.
Or whatever else kind of thing he's trying.
Yeah.
Healed and well.
Yes.
In the sweet name of Jesus.
Jesus. Glory to God. Yeah.
Amen.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
There's my thoughts about it. Yeah. You know what? Kenneth Copeland ought to be put in prison for that. Sorry, my thoughts. Kenneth Copeland ought to be in prison for this kind of ridiculous bullcrap. He really does. This is about like Jim Baker selling, what was a silver solution, which is basically a big bottle of colloidal silver, which will turn your skin purple if you drink enough of it, could cause organ damage if you drink enough of it. Yeah.
Silver water, touch your TV.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no science in these guys' minds, and, how much damage, we could go on all day on that, but it's horrendous. Can I read about scientific experts talking about damage? Here's a doctor. This is from Newsweek. I'm a doctor in a major hospital in Western Europe. Watching you Americans and you Brits in these still early days of coronavirus pandemic is like watching a familiar horror movie where the protagonists yet again split into pairs and decide to go take a tour of a dark basement. The real-life versions of this behavior are pretending this is just a flu. Mm-hmm. Keeping schools open, following through with your holiday travel plans, going into the office daily. This is what we did in Italy. We were so complacent that even when people with coronavirus symptoms started turning up, we wrote each off as a nasty case of the flu. We made sure the economy kept going. We pointed fingers at China and urged tourists to keep traveling. And the majority of us told ourselves and each other, this isn't so bad. We're young, we're fit, we'll be fine even if we do catch it. And I've heard that same statement here, Darren. Fast forward 2 months, we're drowning. Statistically speaking, judging by the curve in China, we're not even at the peak yet. But our fatality rate is at over 6%, double the known global average. Put aside statistics. Here's how it looks in practice. Most of my childhood friends are now doctors working in North Italy. In Milan, Bergamo, and Padua, they're having to choose between intubating a 40-year-old with 2 kids, a 40-year-old who is fit and healthy with no comorbidities, and a 60-year-old with high blood pressure because they don't have enough beds. In the hallway, meanwhile, there are another 15 people waiting who are already having extreme difficulty breathing, and they have no oxygen. The Army is trying to bring some of them to other regions with helicopters, but it's not enough. The flow is just too much. Too many people are getting sick at the same time. We're still waiting the peak of the epidemic here in Europe. Now, Darren, I'm not going to try and scare the handful of Americans that are hearing these words that were printed in the Newsweek magazine, but there is an axiom that I'd like to share. There is no precaution you might take that is needless. You can't be overcautious. You can't be too alarmed, Americans. The fatality and the crime of inactivity lies with not being alarmed enough. What value do you have when people get on the air and say, oh, this media, they're just blowing this out of proportion.
It's
Take
fake
it easy.
news.
Calm down. Yeah. Yeah, I read Colin Afton comment, bring it on. I'm not afraid of this bug. It's absolutely ignorance. It brings out our long-term equation that we're not battling Republicans. We're not battling conservatives.
We're battling stupidity.
We're battling stupidity.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I'm going to save time for the show by not reading the rest of the article. I would urge people to go to Newsweek this week, read the doctor's words, because what I gave you was just a taste of the horror they're experiencing right now. I think they've lost 1,000 people. It's expected they're going to lose many more. The hospitals are putting people in the driveways outside the building, and it's because they sat on their hands. And now Trump has taken his head out of his butt and taken his hands and put them under a seat, and we're going to pay for it. And if people don't step up and start going in the trajectory of trying to ward this off before it hits, we're going to get stopped.
Yep, we absolutely are. I was going to play a George Carlin clip because of the events in the political world over the last week, but I found a better George Carlin clip, and I'm going to play this to juxtapose the Kenneth Copeland clip that you just heard. This runs about 3 minutes and 24 seconds. George Carlin tells you that religion is the biggest BS story ever concocted. Take a listen to this, folks.
But in the department, a businessman can't hold a candle to a clergyman. Because I got to tell you the truth, folks. I got to tell you the truth. When it comes to big time, major league you have to stand in awe of the all-time champion of false promises and exaggerated claims, religion. No contest. No contest. Religion easily has the greatest story ever told. Think about it. Religion has actually convinced people that there's an invisible man living in the sky who watches everything you do every minute of every day. And the invisible man has a special list of 10 things he does not want you to do. And if you do any of these 10 things, he has a special place full of fire and smoke and burning and torture and anguish where he will send you to live and suffer and burn and choke and scream and cry forever and ever till the end of time. But he loves you. He loves you and he needs money. He always needs money. He's all powerful, all perfect, all knowing, and all wise. Somehow just can't handle money. Religion takes in billions of dollars. They pay no taxes and they always need a little more. Now, you talk about a good bullshit story. Holy shit. But, thank you very much. But I want you to know something. This is sincere. I want you to know, when it comes to believing in God, I really tried. I really, really tried. I tried to believe that there is a God who created each of us in his own image and likeness, loves us very much, and keeps a close eye on things. I really tried to believe that, but I gotta tell you, the longer you live, the more you look around, the more you realize something is f***ed up. Something is wrong here. War, disease, death, destruction, hunger, filth, poverty, torture, crime, corruption, and the ice capades. Something is definitely wrong. This is not good work. If this is the best God can do, I am not impressed. Results like these do not belong on the resume of a supreme being. This is the kind of shit you'd expect from an office temp with a bad attitude. And just between you and me, in any decently run universe, this guy would have been out on his all-powerful ass a long time ago. And by the way, I say this guy because I firmly believe, looking at these results, that if there is a God, it has to be a man. No woman could or would ever f*** things up like this.
The words of George Carlin.
Yes, our prophet.
Yep, he pretty much is at this point. Hey, he's played a Catholic priest. What movie was that? Dogma.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh.
And there, with the superstitions and the touching of the TV and, burning witches and so forth, one thing's for sure, people are never going to abandon it, not in our lifetime. But we can and we must hold scientific facts, and we need to look at the indicators of this disease. Before we go to Biden or any other topic, we've got over 4,000 people, I think it's 4,300 people who have lost their lives globally right now. 120,000 or 180,000 people have contracted it. The article I was reading you from Newsweek from that doctor, he stressed that they have not reached their peak. They've lost 1,000 and they're nowhere near their peak. They won't hit their peak like the Grand River Rising. It won't get to its crest, he said, until the middle of April. And they're months ahead of us. And we're at what, March 15th or something like that?
Yeah, today is, we're recording on Friday, 13th. March 13th, Friday the 13th.
So you're just
isn't that prophetic?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of things prophetic. We're looking at the sprouts coming up through the ground like the spring flowers. This is just the edge of this. And so you have to extrapolate that and be responsible. And the person in Italy said, if your government is hesitating, you need to impose restrictions. You need to be the responsible party. And so I hope our listeners take that. And Darren, I know we're not together today. We have been for months, and because of our need to be safe, I hope that sets an example, because you hand it to Trump, he'll kill us all.
Yeah. And I tell you what, I'll just tell you what I do. Every time I go somewhere, when I get back to the car, the first thing I do is I hit the hand sanitizer, and I rub it thoroughly on my hands. And I make sure not to touch my face before I put hand sanitizer on, because that'll kill most of the germs. When I go and pump gas, I take a latex glove, I put it on one hand, I grab the pump handle with it. That's the only thing it touches. My free hand, the one that doesn't have a glove on it, touches the car, because the car's not infected, because I haven't touched it. So I make sure to have those latex gloves on me. I make sure to have wipes on me. You have to do this, folks. You have to prevent this.
You got to stop reading Trump's Pollyanna interpretation of this.
Yeah.
If your government is hesitating, these restrictions are up to you, folks. Hey, stay put. Do not travel.
And if
cancel that family reunion, that promotion party, the big night out. Yeah, this sucks.
Yeah.
These are special times.
Yeah.
Don't take the risk.
And
do not go to places where there are more than 20 people in the same room. It's not safe, and it's not worth it. And I'm going to repeat this one last time. The time to stop this is now. In other words, it's much easier to be ahead of it and try and stop it than wait until it's full-blown, and then you try to put the lid on it. Right now are the critical days. You can say there's millions of people out there that don't have it, so I'm going to do what the hell I want. Now's the time to curb this. You can't put it back in the box when it's out.
Exactly. And for those of you that say, well, I'm just going to ignore all this, If you're not going to protect yourself, if you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for my 82-year-old mother who can't get sick. Do it for my sister-in-law who cannot get the flu virus because she's allergic to the ingredients of it and can't get sick and has a compromised immune system. Do it for me, 52 years old with high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes. I'm more at risk of getting sick from this virus than anybody.
When you're 60 years old, your immune system just starts to depreciate. It just starts to diminish. I'm 72, my generation, we're a big target here. But all of us are. There's 40 and 50-year-olds that are dying worldwide. What you're saying, Darren, is you're taking it in your own hands. The glove at the gas station, I never thought of that.
Yep.
I can buy a pair of gloves. Little things like that can make a life-changing difference.
Yep, disposable latex gloves. You can pick them up at any grocery. You can pick them up at Meijer if they still have any in stock. I want to read.
For those of you who think this is falling, the sky is falling, Chicken Little. No, not far from.
Also, prevention's worth a pound of cure. You know
exactly.
I want to read this here. I've got Bernie's plan for the economic impacts of coronavirus. Here's his list. Bernie would, if he was president, emergency funding for paid family and medical leave, expand unemployment insurance, including for tipped workers, gig workers, domestic workers, and independent contractors, expand Meals on Wheels, the school lunch program, and SNAP. An immediate moratorium on evictions, foreclosures, and utility shutoffs. Construct emergency housing for the homeless, survivors of domestic violence, and college students quarantined off campus, and emergency lending to small and medium-sized businesses to cover payroll and production of emergency supplies. Right there is a leader. Have you heard any of this from Trump? Has the orange buffoon said any of this? No. You know why? Because he's not concerned about you. It's a big club and you ain't in it, as Carlin said. He's worried about his rich buddies. He's worried about the economy. He needs to worry about the people first. The economy will eventually heal. Maybe this will be the impetus to finally get a progressive in office. Maybe people will start waking up. I don't know. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, waking up. That's the mantra. And whether it's the threats of this pandemic or it's the threats of putting another corporate candidate up for punching bag for Trump to knock out of the park, which in my interpretation is what Biden will be for Trump. And, you know, Darren, I know we're two older gentlemen, but I've gone through this time after time. So many people. Jesse Jackson was on the stage here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, ladies and gentlemen, just a week ago in support of Bernie Sanders. And like deja vu, you know, he's an older guy. He had a little trouble getting up on the podium. I'm remembering when he was young, strong, and absolutely preaching a progressive platform, the Rainbow Coalition. You can forget all of the attacks by the right-wing media against Bernie or against Jesse. He was a progressive, and they cut him off at the legs. Yep. They did it the same way they're doing it right now with Biden. I can go through candidate after candidate, Gore, Humphrey, Hillary the last time, and now here we are without any history to be a guide, pulling the same crap with Biden being propped up, hiding his speech, hiding his gaffe after gaffe after gaffe, trying to bury his policy record. Whether it's him voting for the Hyde Amendment, which affected abortion rights, whether it's his votes for overseas trade, NAFTA, whether it's his vote for the Iraq War, whether it's him bailing out the crooks in the collapse during the financial collapse, mortgage collapse during Obama's reign. I can go on and on and on, and you hide that pile of legacy. You try and disguise the way he responds in a conversation today and think he's a viable candidate. How much can we take? What's more threatening to our future, the virus right now or Biden?
Yeah. And I tell you what, I was at the rally, and I want to mention real quick here, CNN is having a debate this Sunday between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. That debate was supposed to take place, I believe, in Arizona. They have now moved
originally Phoenix.
Yep, and they have now moved it to Washington, D.C. There will not be an audience because of the coronavirus. But
there won't be an audience, but will Bernie get to ask the questions he's already listed?
Probably not, because that's just how the corporate machine, that's how the owners of this country roll, as George Carlin would say. But I want to mention a few things here, because both Biden and Sanders have canceled campaign rallies as a result of the coronavirus. But Bernie was in Grand Rapids on Sunday, March 8th, and I've got a little bit of audio of all of this. I was part of the press corps for the day, which I haven't been part of the press corps for a while to actually cover these things. So big thank you to the Sanders campaign for allowing me to cover this. 7,624 people filled up Calder Plaza in downtown Grand Rapids to hear Bernie Sanders speak. And among those 7,624 was a familiar voice. This is Darren Gibson reporting for Southpaws here at Calder Plaza in downtown Grand Rapids for the Bernie Sanders rally. And look who I found in the crowd, my co-host, Jack Prince. Jack, how's it going today?
Good, Darren. Some kind of miraculous synchronization. We bumped right into each other.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just coincidence, right? What do you think about the rally so far? It hasn't even started yet, and there's already a lot of people here.
Well, I tell you, there's just energy in the air. There's everybody's got a smile on their face. The sun's coming over the top of the buildings, and it's got to work. This is our only shot. This is our chance.
A lot of media here from a lot of different outlets. C-SPAN, all the networks are here. Why is it important for independent media like Southpaws and Pacifica Radio to be here?
Well, the big thing is there's no spin that's going to be affected by the corporations, just like our weekly shows. We're not beholden to anybody, and when MSNBC covers this, you'll get a tilt. You'll get a little extra or a little less. And you don't get that with alternative media, not with the progressives. So what you're doing today, Darren, and the fact that you've been allowed in, I see your pass hanging from your neck, that's what I mean by it gives us a shot. This is our chance. This is real people, real democracy operating down here. And unfettered media like yourself, or like Southpaws, is essential to that operation.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Jack, I'm going to let you get to the rally. Thank you so much.
Darren, have a great day. Thank you.
Oh, I will. You too. Yeah, I just had to play that clip, Jack.
Hey, it was a beautiful day.
Yes, it was.
Hours later, it wasn't as bright, and we emerged. Joe Biden emerged. I'm reading from Jacobin magazine. Biden emerged victorious that night, but then his disastrous interview with MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell became an indicator of why Biden's handlers have been trying to keep their candidate out of public view. Even in friendly exchanges, Biden can't help but perform terribly. It's been a remarkable 72 hours for Joe. Having remained largely hidden from view after his comeback on Super Tuesday, the former vice president made headlines thanks to a needless, testy exchange at a Detroit auto plant and complained that Bernie bros are here. When interrupted by green and anti-NAFTA protesters at a campaign event elsewhere in the city. Biden's most significant public appearance since last week, however, took the form of a sit-down with Lawrence O'Donnell, his first and only substantive interview in over a week. Touching, among other things, on health care, the Iraq War, and the Trump administration's response to the pandemic, Biden's strange and rambling appearance can only be called an alarming harbinger of what lies ahead. It should be ultimately if he becomes the Democratic nominee. In a span of less than 20 minutes, while facing a decidedly friendly and non-confrontational interview, Biden offered some clue as to why he's maintained such a low profile this week, despite having recovered his status as a frontrunner. The first real sign of trouble came just a few minutes into the interview. Here it is. Let's flash forward. You're president. This is the interviewer. Bernie Sanders is still active in the Senate. He manages to get Medicare for all to the Senate in some compromised version. Elizabeth Warren's version or some other version. Nancy Pelosi gets a version of it through the House of Representatives. It comes to your desk. Do you veto it? Darren, you know the response?
Yes.
All right, so we've said all along, our number one axiom, our number one litmus test for a progressive is the Medicaid for all.
Yep.
Haven't we said that repeatedly? And the noise hadn't subsided on the crowd of his cheering for his sudden re-emergence as a leader. And he pulls an interview off, and it goes on and it goes on that this man is a neoliberal. He has not a progressive urge in his body. And in this candidate, if you want to say it's mean and cool to point out the gaffes, the pointing to the preamble saying men are created equal or something like that, you know, the thing.
And all that.
You know, and that's just one of hundreds of gaffes. If you think that's out of bounds, you got to answer for the fact that when he gets to Trump doesn't give a damn if it's out of bounds. Trump doesn't care if there's no medical affidavit that proves he's senile. I've heard these Democrats, establishment Dems say, "Oh, you're just feeding the attack against Biden by playing those clips." Sure, it's ugly. Sure, it's gas. But how does that help anything? I'll tell you how it helps. Because your opponent's going to stick it down your throat. Trump is going to beat him over the head with it. And this is the guy you want out there leading the charge. It might be too late. It might be too late to save the primary for Bernie. But I'm going to tell you, the day that Biden gets beat by Trump, I'm going to be there, establishment Dems. I'm going to keep your number. I'm going to keep your post. I'm going to find you. You're not going to hide like you did after Hillary got swamped. I'm going to find you, and I'm going to tell you that your corporate insistence on giving this candidate is 4 more years for Trump. I'm going to be like Malcolm X. I said, I'm going to take the hot rod of truth. I'm going to ram it up the nose of the white establishment. I'm going to ram the truth of what they've done by this nomination up the nose of the Democratic Party. I swear to you, I don't know how long I'm going to live. That'll be my mission in life. That will be my most number one pleasurable activity, my own hobby. It'll be my driving wheel to get out of bed in the morning, Darren Gibson, is the sick truth of how odious this candidate is and how he's bound for failure. And when he does fail, I'm going to remind them around the clock.
You know, the thing of it is, Jack, the same people that are complaining about, oh, you can't talk about Biden and his gaffes, those are the same people that are saying, oh, Trump's got a ton of opposition research on Bernie Sanders, and he's going to use it against him. You don't think he's going to use that against Biden? You think he's going to be nice to him?
Exactly. Listen, he's the perfect foil. You got a guy that's screws are loose, and so who do you nominate to run against him? A guy who's got more screws loose.
Yep.
It completely gets Trump off the hook. How many articles have we read? A panel of psychiatrists have concluded observing Trump that he's got this condition. He's an exceeding narcissist. He's a sociopath. He does this. He does that. Of course, we've never had him in an office, but we're going to pass judgment just on his statements. Mm-hmm. But now when we have a litany of Biden statements, you can't touch them. You can't point those out. Well, they're going to be pointed out. They're going to be rammed down. You don't think Trump is going to talk about issues, do you? You don't think that's going to be the debate between Trump and Biden? Hell no. It's going to be the shallow, cosmopolitan label of, ID politic issues like how crazy Biden's speech is. And it's going to be a defeat. I would not bet with any other conclusion. I have a question back for you, Darren. Mm-hmm. When you said that we have attacked Trump with not just his gas, but his speech, forget the Marxist senility. What about all the comments? I posted a list last week. Who said this? Trump or Biden? Did you happen to see that on Facebook?
I did not see that particular post, but I've seen similar things.
I think Vanity Fair actually had it.
Yeah.
And you look at them, and after all, you can't tell.
No?
They're the same. It's the same mind.
Yeah.
It's the same mind. It's the same anti-busing. It's the same anti-healthcare, racist, you name it.
Sexist.
They are synonymous.
Yep, exactly. I want to play a few clips from the rally. I interviewed a young woman named Mattia Thompson, and I asked her why she was at the rally.
So I am with an organization called Socialist Alternative, who is all out for Bernie Sanders. So we're out here letting people know about the Million to Milwaukee. Our goal is to get 1 million Bernie Sanders supporters to Milwaukee for the Democratic National Convention.
And by the way, did anybody catch that? Socialist Alternatives trying to organize 1 million Bernie supporters to come to Milwaukee. And by the way, I want to say hi to the folks at Socialist Alternative in Grand Rapids who are big listeners to Southpaws. I asked Mattia a follow-up question as well. I asked her, what is it about Bernie Sanders that has inspired her to get politically active? Here's her response.
I started following Bernie Sanders' campaign and his platform in 2015, and just reading up about his consistency and his voting record and his dedication to women's rights, Native American rights, the working class, people of color. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed his entire career, and I believe that he's going to bring that consistency into the White House.
And that's just one person. And I'm sure just about everybody that was part of the 7,624 spectators at Calder Plaza would have something very similar to say.
Yeah.
I tell you what, Jack, if you bear with me, I'm going to play some cuts here. Jesse Jackson spoke at the rally. Jesse Jackson came out that morning to endorse Bernie Sanders for president, just like Sanders did when Jesse Jackson was running back in the 80s. So let's take a listen to what Jesse Jackson had to say.
I stand with Bernie Sanders today because he stood with me. I stand with him because he's never lost his taste for justice for the people. I stand with him because he stands with you.
He's never lost his taste for justice. Those are prophetic words.
Yeah, so if it doesn't bother him, or it did bother him when Biden said he was arrested in an apartheid demonstration in South Africa, it was found to be a big, fat, juicy lie. I wonder if that bothers Jesse. It bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
It bothers me when Biden said that the reason he voted for the Iraq War was he was convinced that it would save us from going to war to invade Iraq. He didn't just vote for the Iraq War. He pushed hard for it.
Yep.
Bush used him like the conservatives have used Biden over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Justice. Yeah, justice, Jesse. Keep going, man.
Yep, and I've got another clip from Jesse Jackson talking about some of the things that Bernie stands for.
Point is, this land, we must have a common agenda. A lot of talk these days about democratic socialism. What does all that mean? The opposite word is democracy, all for and by the people, who want a fair social spending budget. Roosevelt called it Economic Bill of Rights. Out there came Social Security. Johnson called it War on Poverty. Dr. King called it a job on income for every American. Whether Johnson, Dr. King, or Roosevelt, we're on the right page. Thank God for Bernie Sanders.
Wow. That was just fantastic. But we've got more clips because Bernie Sanders then came back out onto the stage. It was Bernie who introduced Jesse Jackson to the crowd after Bernie had been introduced by former Michigan U.S. Senator Don Regal, who also came out and endorsed Bernie Sanders. So Bernie talked about many topics. The one at the forefront was racial equality. And, of course, it's at the forefront because Jesse Jackson had just spoke. So let me play this.
We are going to do everything humanly possible to wipe out all forms of discrimination in this country. We are sick and tired of systemic racism in America. We're tired of a wealth gap where white families have 10 times more wealth than black families. We're tired of black mothers dying at 3 times the rate of white mothers. We're tired of a healthcare system that does not give care and justice to the African American community. So we are united, and I look forward as president to working with Jesse Jackson at my side to make sure that we bring the principles of social justice, economic justice, racial justice, and environmental justice that has marked his entire life.
And it wasn't just racial equality that Bernie Sanders was talking about that day. Bernie also had some ideas on helping workers.
We're going to raise that federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. We're going to have equal pay for equal work. And because Jesse Jackson and I and you believe in the trade union movement, we're going to make it easier for workers to join unions, not harder.
And Jackie also talked about education, and that's something that is near and dear to your heart.
Right.
So let's play this clip of Bernie Sanders talking about how he would fix the education system.
We are going to revolutionize education in America. Universal, high-quality, affordable child care for every family. Tripling funding for low-income Title I schools. Every kid in America, regardless of the income of his or her family, deserves a quality education. And because we believe in education, we believe in teachers. We need more African American teachers. We need more Latino teachers. We need more special education teachers. We want the best and the brightest on college campuses all over this country to say with pride they're going to do some of the most important work, become teachers, educate our kids. And that is why I believe no teacher in America should make less than $60,000 a year. And because we believe in education, we believe that every person in this country, regardless of income, should be able to get the higher education they need. And that is why we're going to make public colleges and universities tuition free.
So there's Bernie Sanders' thoughts on education. Jack, I know you have some comments about that as well.
Oh, real quickly, Darren, I'm always amazed at Bernie. And one of the things that reveals itself there is for him to say we need black teachers, we need special ed teachers, his very next comment, the next dot you connect is, I'm going to make sure every teacher gets $60,000 for a wage. Yep. In other words, the problem for teachers isn't a shortage of teachers. The problem that there is a shortage of teachers in the classroom is because there's a shortage of pay. And Bernie comes right out with the absolute one ingredient that can change that, and that's a pay increase.
Absolutely. I have more clips to play, but we are running out of time, and I do want to get to our Hammer Time segment, but in order to do that, we have to play the appropriate music.
Stop! Hammer Time!
Oh, yeah, it's Hammer Time. It's time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week, and we have a winner in James Carville, the Ragin' Cajun, who's not looking so good these days. But Carville was on MSNBC on Tuesday night giving primary commentary to Brian Williams, the former host of NBC Nightly News, has now been relegated to the B Squad. So I'm going to play this clip. Carville really wants Bernie out of this race. Take a listen.
But we now have a party because James Carville is available to talk to us. James, good evening. What are the voters saying tonight? What needs to happen right now?
They are saying something very clearly, and my tip of a hat to Guy Fawkes. Remember, this is all about November. These voters want to shut this thing down. I mean, you can just look all across the spectrum of the Democratic Party, and people are saying, we made our decision, this is who we're going with. And Senator Sanders may not break threshold in Mississippi. He's at 15.3 right now. And we got to acknowledge that he created a movement. He did some truly remarkable things in American politics, and certainly Vice President Biden, we got to talk to him and discuss this. But we can't diss these Democratic voters who are just coming out in every corner of this country saying, let's get on with this thing. Now, our mission as a party is to defeat Donald Trump. According to 538, there's a 99-1 chance that Vice President Biden is going to be the nominee. Let's shut this puppy down and let's move on and worry about November. This thing is decided.
Let's shut this puppy down, Jack. Can you believe that?
99% out of 538. That's the same 99% that said Hillary would win the Michigan primary in 2016. I don't worry about 99% from 538.
Yeah, because 538 got it wrong in 2016. Everybody got it wrong in 2016. It's just...
Listen, I hope Bernie keeps fighting. What I'm worried about is someday I'm going to hear him say, well, because of the medical issues, because of the safety, I'm withdrawing. I'm going to make this candidacy stop the crowds, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I'm worried about.
Well, I
hope he fights to the end. I hope he never pushes his supporters towards Biden.
Yep. And he said he's going to continue fighting. He's already said that. So I know why Carville wants this done. They want to install their neoliberal puppet that will do the bidding of the owners of the Democratic Party.
Oligarchs.
Yeah, exactly. And people say, oh, well, there's really no such thing as oligarchs. No. You really need to listen to Carlin when he says the owners of this country. You really need to hear it when he says they own you. They own everything. You know, I've gotten to the point.
Parties.
One party. I'd like to see a second party.
Yeah, that's true.
Right now, we're seeing the same support from the Republican Party going toward the Democrats as well. The same donors donate to both. They hedge their bets. They cover their ass. If you don't believe me, go to the Federal Election Commission website, fec.gov, and just take a look, folks. It's right there in black and white. You need to open your eyes. You need to see what's going on. So James...
Is Carville still married to the Republican?
Yes, he is. Mary Madeline.
Is there a better example that there's one party than to look at their marital bliss?
Exactly.
Is there?
No, this is the perfect example. So to Jim Carville, we have this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
That's right. Hey, Jim, go back to your Republican wife and stop being a douchebag. Unbelievable. Oh,
That's
Jack.
a big award.
Yeah, exactly. You know what, Jack? I think I've had way too much fun today. I think you have as well. I think we need to kind of wrap things up here. So we're going to play this by ear next week. Either way, you'll be joining me either by phone or we'll be back together in person.
You bet.
All right, so that's going to wrap things up for this week. We'll be back next week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Jack Prince.
And for our announcer, Kristen Cook, please support independent media and the First Amendment, and stay safe out there.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment, all rights reserved.